Welcome back, everybody. This is Money Mondays with your hosts, Ben Suttles and Ferris Busa, and we are Disrupt Equity.
Welcome back, welcome back. It's a nice, lovely, dreary, rainy day here in
Houston, Texas,
where I don't know if you know, Saturday was considered the most miserable day of 2022, given weather-wise. So
really?
Yeah, I think today's just as miserable because I guess it's the long,
it's cold,
rainy the whole day.
It's
we haven't
dark.
really had a lot of rain, so yeah, it's dark.
Yeah, we do need the rain. It hadn't really rained that much this year, but you don't really want to combine that with 40-degree weather. And for you people that are up in the northeast saying 40 degrees, I'm wearing shorts at 40 degrees. Well, guess what? We grew up in Houston, and this is really
Yeah, guess what? We're not in the north.
We're not in the northeast, but we're going to make our way through it because what are we talking about today?
Talking about do's and don'ts of partnerships and multifamily. So learn from the mistakes I made in choosing a partner. Basically, the topic
I was
for today.
waiting. I was literally when is this joke?
Yeah,
and you got it in real early.
Step one, don't go with a bald guy. Right,
and you're gonna throw the
bald guy means they've already been stressed out. They get stressed too easily. I don't know. I'm just making up
the
stuff.
Partner joke and the bald joke in one joke.
Hey, my previous partner wasn't bald, and that still had its own challenge. So it's not. I guess it can't be tied directly to just hair.
There's just a coincidence. It's a coincidence. Anyway, folks. All right. So we are talking about the do's and don'ts of partnerships, and I'd say, okay, we talk about multifamily a lot. We talk about real estate a lot. I would say this is really for any business endeavor that you have. A lot of this stuff is pretty straightforward, right? You need to pick your partners wisely. And we'll give you a little bit of a heads up on this. But let's get right into it. We typically get questions ahead of shows, so we're going to go through some of those. So what are a few ways, this is more on the multifamily side or on the commercial real estate side, you can get involved as a GP partner on a multifamily deal? This is actually, we've talked about this a couple times, but you want to start off?
Yeah. I mean, we like to talk about this one often, right? People always ask us, hey, how do I get started?
Yes.
And the answer is ultimately,
how do I get into a deal?
It's a two-word answer. What's my 2 words?
Add value.
There you go. Look at that. I got a partner that can read my mind. Step one, hire a partner that can read your mind sometimes, right? It's about adding value. You look for some ways that you can add value. And what does adding value mean? Honestly, it depends on what the heck you're talking about. In multifamily, what are ways that people add value? They can help sign on the note, right? They can provide liquidity, provide net worth. They can find a deal. They can be boots on the ground, right? They can help asset manage. They can help, equity, construction. I mean, there's a lot of, name it, there's ways to do it, right? So find ways to add value while staying compliant with the rules. But, it's important, right? Because if you're not adding value, people are always going to be like, well, what's the point, right? Versus, if I have something that Ben needs, right? Well, he has something I need. Guess what? There's synergies there.
Yes.
We can both divide and conquer and move the business forward. So ultimately, it's about adding value, folks, and you're not going to add value by finding someone just like you. That was really a mistake I learned early on. You want to find a partner that's different than you, right? And so if someone is let's say I'm just a really high net worth guy and I want to sign on everybody's deal, and I meet another high net worth guy that wants to sign everybody's deal.
Yeah, there's no
Guess
value.
what? We can't do a deal together. There's no value. Who knows who's going to do the other parts of it? So ultimately, find ways to add value with add value with other people that don't have what you can bring, right?
So,
that's the big takeaway.
I'll maybe give another example. It's somewhat related to what Ferris is saying, right? You go back to any deal, right? You've got the rich guy or gal that doesn't have a lot of time. Maybe they're a doctor, but they're sitting on a couple $1 million. They'll sign on your deal. They'll fund your deal, right? And you're a young guy or gal and you've got a lot of time, but you don't got a lot of money. Well, guess what? That sounds like the starting of a partnership there because you can go out and hustle and get a deal and maybe help manage the deal while this person puts up all the money or helps with a lot of the money, right? That is a partnership. You guys are adding value. This person has a lot of money but not enough time. This person doesn't have any money but has a lot of time, right? So those two things go together. They're complementary, right? Again, I love Ferris's example of 2 high net worth people. What are they going to do, right? You can't. You're going to double up and sign on a bigger note, that only goes so far, right? You need different skill sets to be successful, right? And I think that's typically that's really where me and Ferris are because our skill sets are different, our personalities are different, right? Yeah. We don't get along or agree on everything.
We can't both be charming. Only one of us can be charming, right? So
I'll take the good looking one.
Only one of us can have hair. So
So no, but point being is that also that's another set of eyes. That's another I guess way or perspective or point of view that you don't have, right? You tend to get kind of horse blinders on when you're only doing deals by yourself, right? You might talk yourself into a deal that you shouldn't talk into, whereas a partner will tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't do that deal. Or you might say, I don't like this deal, and they might tell you all the reasons why we should do the deal. Right? It's always nice to have another set of eyes, another perspective on it, right?
I agree.
So,
and you're going to disagree, and that's okay. I love that too, right?
That's absolutely true.
Like a partner is not about a yes person, right? It's about giving a different perspective and a person that is ultimately will be aligned and work through the challenges.
Yes.
Right? Like we disagree all the time. We disagree on the fact that we disagree. I mean,
we don't disagree.
Yeah. And so, but know that going in, right? And I think a good partner is someone you can, okay, here's a challenge, here's a problem, here's solutions, let's make an agreement. And what's the phrase that Matt says? Where you get buy-in, outward in, where everybody's aligned. There's a phrase for this, right?
I do not know. There
is a phrase.
It is Monday.
Yeah, there's a phrase for it, but
coffee here, so.
It's making sure you're aligned outward, and even if you disagree, right? Like there's a phrase for that. But anyway,
well, I mean, you need buy-in, and I think that it's also important, right? You don't always have to be right on everything either, folks, right? Sometimes it's a little bit of give and take, right? I think we're big on like, hey, let's keep moving forward. We don't have to get everything correct. We don't always have to agree on everything. We're trying to move the needle.
Progress,
right? Progress,
perfection.
Perfect. That was what I was going for.
I knew you were going to start to steal that.
That's not yours.
I know it's not mine. Mine is plant and expand,
yours.
But same idea.
So, all right. So, how do you pick the right partner? I think this is a tough question because I think we already hit on one of that, right? You need to have some complementary skill sets and personalities is probably one thing that you're trying to identify. But you got to get out of your comfort zone to find people, right? And I always tell people, even if you're an LP, you got to get out of your comfort zone and go find some syndicators that are doing deals. You're not going to be able to find all that stuff from sitting behind a laptop.
Yeah,
right?
and I'd add too, it takes time to develop a friendship. It takes time to develop a partnership. Right, so don't hop in, go all in immediately, right? Yeah. Get to know that person, right? Get to know who knows them, right? Find out and see if you're aligned, because maybe they're a great person, but you guys have some fundamental misalignment on things, right? You're in it for the next 2 years because you're going to retire in 2 years, and they're in it for the next 20 because they're young and they want to retire in 20. Those are very different
That's
goals.
actually a really good point, right? Understand what everybody's ultimate end goal is, right? And I've had partnerships, and he's had partnerships in the past too, and that was one of my big misalignments with my partners. Great guys, still friends with them to the day. I was actually texting with one of them the other day. But the point is that they were looking for something different than I was looking for. I was looking for a new career. They were looking for passive income, essentially. And what me and Ferris do is very, very active. We are living and breathing this stuff day in and day out, every hour of every day. And so if you're not looking for that, then maybe partnering up with somebody that isn't going to be a very good partnership, right? So you need to make sure that your goals align. Right, you're going in the right path together, right? You don't want one person going this way, another person going that way. You want to have complementary skill sets and personalities. I think that's important. I think you go fishing where there's fish too, right? So where do I find or how do I pick the right partner? You got to go out to real estate events. Right? You want people that are interested in real estate investing. You're not going to go to some conference on, I don't know, something else, some other topic, just to try to find your real estate investor partner, right? So you need to go where so if you want to get into multifamily and you want to find a partner, probably going to a multifamily event or two would probably be a good way to find a good partner, because those people are obviously, they're motivated, they're type A personalities, they want to go out and make it happen. That's probably a good place to fish. I think the one thing too, how to pick the right partner is don't jump right into a long-term partnership either.
Yeah, you got to date a little bit.
You got to date, either become friends first and see if it's going to work. Maybe just start on a smaller deal together and see how you guys operate. Or is this person really doing what they say that they can do?
Yeah, our first deal, we weren't disrupt equity. It was like me and Ben. And we tried it a little bit. I'm like, hey, we kind of clicked.
Well, we were, but we were disrupt equity at that point.
No. It came on after. If you remember, Woods of Decatur, the LLC existed. I had that, but
we created it as that part.
It was because remember there was. I don't think you remember this. There was the Atlanta deal, right? Woods of Decatur.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and like, hey, you want to participate? And so we kind of got to know each other through that, and we're like, okay, we're aligned. It was very quickly on, but maybe you don't remember. We'll talk about that separate. But yeah, we had a deal, right? I mean, we did.
But we had known each other for over a year anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
You had already KP'd on another deal of
we had
mine.
known each other. So yeah.
So my point is that like, yeah, maybe just starting off, finding a deal to partner on is a good opportunity for you to see if this is something that you want to have more long-term, more formal. Because really, we're not deal partners, folks. We actually are partners on Disrupt Equity, which is a syndication firm, right? And a commercial real estate private equity company. So, we're not just on deal-to-deal basis, right? And so, but some people are, and that's totally fine. And some people do that because they don't want to have a long-term partner. They just want to do deals.
Too, right?
That's totally fine too,
on what your
right?
goals are.
Maybe you just get along with this guy, but neither of you really want to start a company about it, and you're just like, hey, let's just go do deals. Okay, that's fine. And then you're not really married to anything other than what's going on with that deal, right? You don't have to, nothing else is commingled or built upon that, right? And so, those are some of the ways you're going to pick and find where your right partner is or where your next partner is, right? All right. Any warning signs of bad potential partnerships? No jokes allowed.
I don't know. Warning signs, not being able to agree on disagreeing, I'd say is probably a huge warning sign.
Yeah.
Because disagreements happen. I tell it to people, problems will happen, right? Whether it's a spouse, whether it's a partner, whether it's an employee, manager, those things will happen. It's about understanding, getting alignment, and moving forward, right? That's the most important thing. And so I think if people can't fundamentally, it's agree to disagree and move forward. That was the phrase, I think, right? If you can't agree to disagree and move forward, you're not moving forward, right?
I think, and some of this stuff is warning signs. Some of the stuff you might find out down the road, right? I think, warning signs is, not being able to agree on certain things and moving forward. I'd also just say, how controlling and type A are they, right? Because I think the one thing that you have to realize with a partnership is, you guys might be both hard charging, and maybe you're both quite capable of doing the whole entire thing throughout yourself, but you have to give and take. You have to delegate out. You have to have, okay, I trust that this person is going to go do that and get it done well, right? And those people that are constantly like, I got to be a part of every little thing, and I got to look over their shoulder and make sure it's doing right, and then they're also obviously going to be micromanaging the whole process. That's probably a big warning sign for me, right? Because at the end of the day, right, you have to trust your partner. We're talking about millions of dollars here, folks. So if you can't trust that your partner's going to do these certain things well without your oversight, then maybe you should just go ahead and hire some employees versus having a partner, because then you can go and tell them what to do, right? So that might not be a good way to have a partnership.
Warning sign, that's also misalignment of long-term goals, right? We could not have done Disrupt what we have today if we didn't have the same goal. One of us had a short-term, one of us had a long-term. Trust me, we wouldn't have been able to keep investing back in the company, right? I hate to boil it down to age, but a 25-year-old is going to have a very different perspective than a 65-year-old, and those might not make for the best partners, right? Because the 65-year-old is probably looking for a retirement gig, and the 25-year-old is like, hey, I'm going to be in this for the next 40 years. I'm looking to go build a company, right? So you can kind of see those warnings. That's a pretty straight up easy one to spot, but it's also a warning sign too, right? And then I would say the warning sign that you have to do some background checks on people, right? You have to understand that, hey, maybe they've had a bankruptcy, maybe they have a foreclosure, but maybe there's a good reason why. Maybe there's a good story, right? You need to have those, and you need to do credit and background checks on these people, right? If you're partnered up with somebody that half the industry knows has committed fraud, that's a big problem for you, right? So you need to understand that, you need to do that, and don't feel like you're gonna make somebody uncomfortable by asking, hey, can I run a background check on you, right? That's totally fine. And everybody's had issues in the past, or, not everybody, but some people have, and it just depends on what it is, right? There might be a story, but you need to be candid and upfront. If those people are guarded about that and they're not candid about it, that could be a big warning sign for you that they're maybe covering up some other stuff that's even worse. So those are some warning signs. All right, so you're getting into a partnership. It's very much like a marriage. How do you protect yourself? Guns right here. No, ultimately, right, outline what the other person's going to do, and what you guys really, what is the strategy, right? Make sure you kind of have those hard conversations up front, and then if things don't work out, what happens then, right? It's about getting all that clear. And again, if you're aligned on the first two things, hopefully you don't have to get to
it's going to be it's going to be a lot easier. But I mean, I'd say have an agreement, have an operating agreement or a joint venture agreement or a partnership agreement.
Don't just do a handshake, folks.
Yeah, like I mean, and there's been so many of these where, well, I mean, he told me he was going to do this, and then he doesn't do it, and then this is what leads to what people call fractured partnerships, right? So to protect yourself, getting alignment on this stuff, drafting it in an agreement, right? You can call it a million different things, but get an attorney to draft a partnership agreement, right? You know, and which lists like, hey, so-and-so is going to be doing these things, and the other guy's going to be doing this. And if so-and-so, you know, if they decide to break up, or the partnership's going to dissolve, what happens then? If one of them dies, what happens? We hate to think about that type of stuff, but that's true, right? What happens to that person's shares? Does that go to their spouses, and then do their spouses have a say-so in the business, or do they just have the equity in the deal, right? Is there a buyout clause? Like, all these things need to be addressed, especially, again, we're not talking about a couple bucks here, folks. Most of this stuff is tens of millions of dollars. You need to have it lined out, right? And so that's how you protect yourself, right? And don't just get some damn template off of Google, pay the $1,000 to an actual attorney and have them draft a partnership agreement. It's going to be worth its weight in gold.
Attorney is not one of the roles you want to cut corners on, folks.
Yeah, and yet we still see people do it all the time. So, but that's going to be your main way of protecting yourself, and just be open and candid and communicate. A lot of things can be solved by people just communicating effectively, you know, because then that leads to resentment, and that resentment leads to the partnership breaking up, right? You know, whereas if you could have gotten just ahead of it and said, hey, I'm not happy about this, or I don't agree with that, and then you try to come up with a resolution, most of that stuff gets nipped in the bud very, very quickly. So that's how you protect yourself. All right, last question. How do you define roles and expectations in a partnership? And we just talked about this a little bit.
You define them up front, put them in an agreement, but really, you know, make sure you understand. And, you know, people used to ask me and Ben early on, what were our roles and responsibilities? I like to say we wear all hats when needed, right? Yeah. And that probably wasn't a good answer. It worked. But now we have a lot better understanding of who's driving what.
Right? You know,
we wore every freaking hat in the organization. And
that's fine. You know, and when you're starting off, you probably are going to bootstrap a lot of things.
But I'd say early on, we did kind of say, hey, you run this thing, I'll run this thing. But it was per project versus like you run these things for all things, right?
Yeah, I think, you know.
We would try to divide and conquer.
And it does. You know,
but we did it by deal instead of maybe, hey, you go get really good at this subject matter and I get good at this subject matter. Yeah,
and I think to this day, I mean, we've since kind of been able to carve it up a lot better and more effectively.
You said carve it up, folks. It's Thanksgiving.
Oh,
carve that turkey.
I did not mean to
do that. We did do a team Thanksgiving potluck that went really well today.
It was really, really good. I'm still stuffed from that, but it was good food. But back to what we're talking about here, the do's and don'ts. So yeah, listing out the roles and responsibilities and the expectations up front in a partnership agreement is huge. You have to define those up front. You have to make sure that those are complementary, right? You don't want the guy that, you know, hates asset management, doesn't know anything about numbers, isn't organized, doesn't like any of that other stuff. You don't want him doing that if he's going to be not successful doing it. So you need to have that conversation up front, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be spectacular at it either. I'm not spectacular at it, and I do asset management. But I have a great team that's behind me, and I manage them, right? So point is, you need to define that up front, and it could be on a deal-by-deal basis, or it could be at the company level, right? You know, for example, Ferris does more of the property management side of the business, and I do more of what Disrupt Equity does, which is acquisitions and asset management.
And already lost his hair banging against the wall, so I figured I'd bang my head against the wall to lose my hair too.
So, but I mean, like that has evolved, right? Like that wasn't always the case. You know, we just, as we grew as a company, we knew we needed something more dedicated, right? You know, and so from my perspective, it's important to define that and always be looking to have that conversation, because things are going to change too. You get too many deals and you can't have that one person doing everything, right? And so maybe you say, hey, Ben, you're bomb, man. I know you've been doing good at asset management, but I'm going to get somebody to help you, you know, or Ben's burned out on asset management, so we're going to shift his responsibilities over here, right? Again, it boils down to communication, folks. And if you have a good relationship with your partner, you're going to be able to sniff those issues out and be able to resolve them. I'm going to leave you guys with one last note. A partnership is very much like a marriage. In fact, in most cases, you might be spending more time with your business partner than you do with your actual spouse. And people are going to cringe and say, oh my gosh. But think about it. We work 10-hour days, 6 days a week, right? and he's got a beautiful wife and kids, and I've got a daughter. We want to spend time with them too, but we're building a legacy, a generational legacy for them as well. So they understand right now we're biting the bullet. But my point is that you're very much like a marriage, and the divorce can be just as messy. So you need to pick your spouse well, because you don't want, you get in there and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to be doing here, right? And so if you take your time, you do the background checks, you develop friendships, you develop what everybody's going to be doing, you take some time to actually flesh all these things out up front, I think you're going to be a lot more successful in your partnerships.
That's why we signed a prenup, I was just ready to go.
Boom!
I don't even know what a prenup means in a partnership.
Well, no, actually I don't know what that means either. But anyway, so open Q&A.
If you have comments, questions, thoughts, please go ahead and ask them.
Everybody knows everything about the do's and don'ts about multifamily partnerships.
And I think ultimately, folks, like we said, learn to add value. Find people that you like, know, and trust. It's like people you invest with, right? If you wouldn't invest with your partner, probably not a good partner, right?
Yeah,
I'll say that.
No, that's true, right? You know what I mean? Like if you, and at the end of the day, folks, go with your gut. If you just don't get a good feel for that person, probably not going to get a better feel for them down the road, right? So you got to go with that gut feeling sometimes. That's probably your best kind of barometer of success on who's going to be a good partner or not.
But otherwise, if you have comments, questions, thoughts, please ask them. Otherwise, let's keep going.
All right. Oh my gosh, the Multifamily Investor Network Conference.
It's coming up February 11th. It's going to be a huge event, and we will sell out.
We absolutely will.
We've had the most momentum we've ever had on a conference. So if you're interested, come check it out. It's going to get more expensive starting next week, and it's going to continue to get more expensive each week. We don't make money on this, folks. It's about having a good environment, good people, come network, come learn, grow, and everything in between. So coming on up February 11th. Check out mfinvestornetwork.com. Use the coupon code EARLYBIRD or Disrupt.
And get $150 off. Oh my gosh, Shanna is not allowing us to make any money.
Tickets.
You're sticking to that same ethos. I see you. But we're there to have fun, folks. We're there to network. We're there to find potential partners. And I think that that's the most important thing. Again, going to sell out. We've already sold close to 200 tickets, and we've only been on sale for 2 weeks. We just went to Atlanta.
Not even
Actually, not even
a week and 2 days.
Yeah, a week and 2 days.
9 days.
Folks, and we've got some great speakers.
At this rate, we'll be sold out in, survey says, 60 more days.
60 more days.
No, I did that math wrong.
That's
9 days, we sold 200 tickets.
Avery's giving you a look.
Yeah,
She's like, what are you talking about?
54 VIPs already sold.
Oh, and 54 VIP. Okay, yeah, you better get your tickets pretty quick.
For 60 VIPs.
We love this event because we've curated it and we put it together so you can network and develop those relationships, folks. We have a lot of good feedback on them, and we have a lot of good panels, so you get some education. We got a lot of good keynotes. You're going to get those golden nuggets that you're looking for too, right? So it's in Houston, February 11th, 2023. Check it out, mfinvestornetwork.com. Put in early bird. All right, moving along to our in-person meetup. Oh my gosh.
Coming up next Thursday.
Houston Real Estate.
It's going to be a long
Investing,
day for us.
Holiday, Networking, Mixer. Oh my
gosh. Check it out. December 1st, we do our meetup first Thursday of every month here in Houston, Texas. If you're anywhere in the state, definitely drive on down, come check it out. It'll be a packed house. People love networking, and so do we. So we'll be there all day, every day. And it will be an ugly sweater competition. Ben's got plenty of those, so if you don't have one, come check it out. Message Ben, he'll help get you one. So
yes, I've just got a whole closet of ugly sweaters. I collect them.
He calls them sweaters, but he doesn't realize that they're just
really just my clothes. Apparently, they're just they're horrible. But Wakefield Crowbar in the Heights area of Houston, right? December 1st, which is next Thursday at 7 p.m. Garden Oaks area. If you're familiar with Houston. But disruptequity.com/HTX meetup. We're just having a holiday mixer, a lot of networking. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll probably do a little bit of raffling, do ugly sweaters. Gonna be a lot of fun. So check it out. So what's coming up next week, my friend?
Characteristics of a profitable multifamily investment.
Oh my God.
Those are the only kind of investments that we like, profitable ones. So come check it out.
So we'll talk about the metrics,
a little bit of
the
a
things
deep
you want to
dive and share what we know.
All right, excited. We will see you then.
Thank you.